All right, so we're going to do a panel the way usually panels are run. So you're going, if you don't mind, to present yourself very quickly, like if possible, like tweet style, right? So 280 characters, 280 characters in seconds would be like 5 to 10 seconds, maybe, if you read it. And just so who you are, company you work for, and what you do in that company.
Okay, easy. Gil, head of product at Lemonade.
Not the lemonade of...
Not this lemonade, the other lemonade.
The other one.
Other lemonade.
My name is Idan, and I'm the founder and CEO of Spitball. It's a social studying application.
My name is Nir. I lead the design for First. It's a digital asset group in the blockchain space.
My name is Tomer. I'm a B2C, the Israeli cryptocurrency exchange CPO.
Okay, so we have here, and it's been on purpose, we have invited people who have experience and are hands-on into the blockchain industry, and also someone who, by the way, all of them have worked before in non-blockchain services and companies that are well known for their design practices. Idan, you were, if I recall, at Yahoo. Nir, you were at Wix, was it right? And Tomer, I can't remember where you were before, but
Aretz.
Aretz. So you're known for their great user experience. And of course, Lemonade, but also a company that is not from the blockchain space, but from the fintech space, who could say, and coming from an industry that's not the most well known for great user experience, but where you've contributed to basically change the rules. So actually, I would like to start with you. Is when you're looking at a fintech industry that's like, you know, how long is the insurance industry? Like 20 years old, maybe something like that? 50 years old?
300 years old?
Insurance,
the insurance industry is around 300.
300 years old. All right, but the modern, I was referring to the modern like insurance industry, not the veteran industry. How do you take something that has been built like for decades and hundreds of years and make it delightful to customers? What does it take to break the rules and build something that people will enjoy?
So first of all, money. I'm just kidding. It seems pretty easy looking at the side in an industry like insurance that wasn't kind of disrupted for such a long time, and everybody has, I'm sure, like horror experiences with insurance. So it looks easy from the side, but like anything that you'll do a bit different than what's being done right now will be considered as a great experience probably. But not everything in the insurance industry is that bad. We see a lot of companies that are starting to do really nice things, and in the insurance industry, one of the hardest things is to get the trust from the users, because it's being controlled by companies that are, you know, they are 100 years old or 150 years old with brand names that that's really hard to beat. So getting the trust of the user is something that's really hard, even if you do something different and, you know, you kind of turn a necessary evil to something that's social good. It's still really hard to get the trust of the user. So this is what we are doing, and struggled at the beginning, but now it's going really, really well. Yeah. It's
interesting that it's the trust that has, in your case, helped you get to the next step, when in the blockchain industry it's by default, you know, building bridges that make any service trustable, and then you have to go to the next level. So three of you guys are in the crypto space, and you were supposed to build, you know, trustless services, meaning that you don't need to rely on the technology, it's going to work as expected. Are you looking at this industry, and are you considering today that the level of user experience is even at a decent level? Like, what is in your eyes the temperature of the industry from a user experience point of view? Are we at the insurance level pre-Lemonade, or is it even worse than that? Is this really prehistory, or are we at the dawn of dApps, like we saw in the movie, getting closer to something that's going to be better soon? I don't know if you want to start, Tomer or Idan.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. So I don't really know if the reason that application as they were shown here really from the blockchain sector are really so poorly designed because it's so complex, or maybe because the audience actually that was that actually the products were built for was an audience that was very technical and actually didn't care so much about that. And it was actually built also by people that placed less about usability and more about functionality. And it's not always that distinguishable. So I think that's one of the reasons for what we see, because in the products that we develop now, and I'm looking at other successful products, the technology is actually hidden from the user. The fact that it's decentralized, the fact that it's a trustless system, and the fact that it's your wallet and has your holdings or value does not have to be like it was demonstrated here. And we see that in applications that exist today with banks. It's really all about the ability to access your content and lacking the fact that you can't call the bank. But other than that, once you're in that, there shouldn't be any distinction between the blockchain products and any other product that we see today. This is at least my opinion.
Tomer, you work at an exchange, right? So you're running an exchange. You're seeing users coming to buy and sell every day. So you are exposed to a lot of interactions with people. How do you feel is the state of the industry? Are we in dial-up era yet, or have we made already some progress since the early days of blockchain?
I think that mainly you can consume, buy and sell bitcoins without any interface at all. You can do it with your command line and blocks or snippets of code. And I think that exchanges like B2C or other services are basically, how you call it? They make it accessible for non-tech guys, and I think we are still a very young industry in one way, though the people that work in this industry are like super smart and great developers, etc. So I think that because it's like the beginning of this growth in this industry. It mainly run and just built from scratch, and these days people are most likely want to improve their products, the UX and the UI as well.
So like Idan, you both saying that one of the reasons we are in the state we're in right now, and there is a reason why Josh had difficulties finding examples, is because the people who are building this industry are more geared toward functionality versus user experience or design. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Bitcoin was a no man's land, and today it's like very common. So. Yes, I think it's like a very natural progress in a young business.
Near, what's your take about the current state of affairs in the industry? You working product design, you're working in the space. You've seen other industries before. Were you shocked when you arrived? And is the bar so low that you can easily make a progress?
So first of all, I think this is not a problem that's unique to blockchain in any way. Any new technology will encounter the same adoption curve. Moreover, when you're dealing with sensitive data like funds or private information, we have made some progress for sure, but you can still see the signs of people that are excited by the technology are dominating the product development and the conversation, and as a result, you see the implementation evident in the products still. I think it's a natural timeline that you can point out to email, or they've made a lot of comparisons to other technologies. It's not something. It's not a. I don't see it even as a problem. It's just a natural progression we need to go through to mature. Yeah.
Obviously, we'll need time. Timing, like I said before, is design's best friend. Let's talk about security as a constraint, right? So that's something that is common to both the blockchain industry, but also to InsurTech. You have to build something that is secure, and when you have security in mind, it adds a layer of complexity and number of constraints that other industries don't have. So, in your view, as people who worked in product design, how can you mitigate the factor of building something that is at the same time secure and is by design needs to be secure, but also still requires to be usable? And I think that's true for any services in general, but in particular services that involve money. So any thought about how you have to deal with security and user experience at the same time? Anyone can start, there's no order.
I think that basically user experience and security, and also you can count in things like regulation or compliance. So you can put it in the same pool. If you're talking about a great UX experience, you care for security and you care for regulation. You want to know that if you put the money in one's website, it will be safe, and you got customer support that you can connect to. And I think it's going hand in hand. There is a lot of decentralized exchanges and or exchanges that don't ask for like a KYC, a full KYC. And in my point of view, a good UX should support a great deal of security and for your data, your money, and everything. That's it.
But, just a sec. You are asking KYC to your users, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So is that, for example, a break to adoption, something that is painful to users to the point that they don't come to your service
For
because
sure.
they have not taken the picture with the selfie date, as they said in the video, or because they uploaded the wrong document and they want to do it again because they made a mistake? Is that, for example, something that is in the process of the design of the product, a break that stops the user or that frustrates the users?
You can see it on charts. If you will look through like acquisition flow, you can see a drop, a big drop when.
How big? Can you make a number?
Yeah,
Okay.
a real big one.
Okay, so we're talking about 50%, I guess.
Sometimes some more. It can be more, but
Okay.
basically, it's the process is very long, and you're considered if you go. Down with the regulation on your side, like we do, you need to add like 10 or 11 screens that someone need to go through to add files, documentations, etc. So it's long, it's painful, and it's pretty hard to pass in one time.
Yeah, in few seconds.
So, in a few seconds. So
We're not there yet.
it's not like you're going to I don't know Facebook or something. You're doing a login, verified your phone number, and that's it. And you're in. You need to. You're considered under the regulation of bank and the stocks exchange combined. So.
Yeah, so the both of worse worlds, I guess. In Lemonade, how do you deal with onboarding users? Like, is this also does it take time to the new customer to get an account on Lemonade? How do you deal with the process of verifying the user, his identity, and securing his account?
Yeah, so one of the values we sell, or one of the things we're very proud of, is how easy it is to onboard Lemonade, comparing to old insurance, right? So you need to combine security into it, and insurance eventually it's a risk mitigation business, right? We need to know which risk we onboard. So that's a huge challenge, but this is on the insurance company to understand how to pull data from other sources instead of asking the user, 10 more questions, or find creative ways on actually really knowing who the customer is without interrupting onboarding and seeing this huge drop that you will see when you ask users to do hard things, for sure. But sometimes it's a bit easier because users expect from the company, specifically in finance and insurance, and obviously in crypto, that the company will know them, right? So there are some stages that user expect to see and experience. So at least it adds some expectations that the user and the company are on the same kind of they are aligned in terms of security. But it's definitely a challenge. But I think at least at Lemonade, when we started the company, we told ourselves we trust people, and let people let us down, and then we'll change things. But first we trust people, and so far so good. It works, and people actually show different behavior, by the way, when you trust them. So it's interesting. So statistically, it will work in your benefit. So with security and everything, you can also trust people, which is an awesome thing, by the way, these days.
Eden, any thought about that?
I wanted to say something before you said, before you addressed my colleague here, because I really do use Lemonade as an example, and I'm not saying that just because you're here, as a real example of how you can take a very boring onboarding process and actually make it fun. And this is the experience. I don't know if anybody here did an onboarding on Lemonade, but it really goes through one by one by one by one. But it's okay, It's the difference, I guess, in sitting in a Lexus in traffic versus I don't know, in a different car. So this is really the feeling that you get. And I think that, and this relates actually to what I said earlier. And it's all a matter of really understanding where the customer is and the pain point that he's going through, and actually being there for him and actually speaking in the language that he wants to, he or she, of course, the customer, and actually hand holding them through the process. When we're frustrated in the airport, you've missed your flight, and somebody on the other counter actually understands you and gives you the feeling of empathy, then all your energies kind of like melt. But when somebody's there, like, looking at you and saying, "It isn't my problem," then you just go off the roof. And the same thing is about any type of relationship that you build with your customer. And I think that Lemonade has done a great job in there, and there shouldn't be any reason why we cannot do it on any other type of process.
Yeah, I'll try to add to all the value these guys already provided with just one small thing. I think as designers, we oftentimes look at the security concerns, or you also put in the same bucket compliance and regulation. I think that holds true for them as well. We look at them as something that hinders the end experience for the user. That we need to sacrifice good design to accommodate for security reasons, but oftentimes I think that in the long run, you will want to introduce friction, and especially when you're dealing with user funds and there's so much at stake. In the long run, if the design will not be the Amazon one-click to buy, but will make sure that the user are aware of everything that's occurring, it will help the design and not be something you sacrifice.
All right. One more corporate. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one more thing. I apologize for jumping and taking here. Is that when we started doing our app development, when you develop an app, sometimes you have to ask permissions from the user to have access to either the phone or something like that, right?
GDPR.
And one of the things that worked very well for us is to explain to the user what is the value in actually that will bring to them if they grant this access, and not just pop up the default window that the apps give you for that. So this is a classical example of where communication will be at your best, and I think that's key for.
So
any type of
an example of that, for example, is you want the access to the camera, for example, for scanning a QR code, I guess, or whatever, and you say, well, we would like to offer you the possibility to scan QR code instead of like the typical pop-up like access to the camera, please, and then you don't understand why.
Make sure that the user understands that you're speaking with a human being.
Speaking with a animal, or speaking like to an animal, so he understands
A human being with an animal
with
brain.
an animal brain. Another core principle of the blockchain industry is obviously decentralization, right? Is the fact that there is no man in the middle, no third party, that you are going to be able to deal directly with other users, and this without intermediaries. But the thing is, it's introducing another level of complexity in design, right? Because you have to think in another language that is not the language that the whole web has been built. Even for Lemonade, I mean, Lemonade is a company that is running a service and that owns a database of customers, but and the whole web has been built like that. But the blockchain industry is built with a different paradigm. And my question is this industry difficult at a design level because of that principle? Is the fact that there is this new paradigm of not having third party centralizing the experience of a user, making things more complex, A, by not having standards, and B, by also making just the process more complex and for new users to understand how things work. So in other words, in your opinion, is decentralization an enemy of user experience, and will that remain so over the years?
I'll try. give it a shot. Decentralization on its own, I don't think is necessarily a problem for users. It is a problem when you're trying to apply it in use cases where it doesn't organically, when you don't really need it. When it's the appropriate solution in the backend, it's just another implementation detail. It's a matter of providing the right abstraction to the user so that he understands why, if you're able to communicate why he needs it and the implications that he needs to be aware of. I think it can be exciting for the user and not hurt the design.
Tomer, maybe you have something to say as a centralized exchange?
Yeah, I'm thinking we are a bit centralized.
A little bit.
I think that currently the decentralized process it's a bit complex to understand even for tech guys. So if you, for example, if you want to transform a Bitcoin from your wallet to a friend wallet, you also need to put up like a gas price in Ethereum or a fee for the miners in Bitcoin. And a lot of people ask us on the telephone, I just transfer the Bitcoin to your exchange and I can't see it, why? And they don't understand the process even before they got to us. So when they are working in the decentralized workspace, it's real complex to understand it, and no one will, and I don't know if no one will, but currently no one is taking charge of this part of the networks.
So are you referring to the fact that users are not educated to understand it? Is that the problem?
I think the majority of
an
users
element of information that is missing somewhere?
Well, you got like few types of personas that holding bitcoins or trading bitcoins or any other coin or ICO. But I think that the majority of the customers that hold bitcoins and want to buy and sell or even to pay with bitcoin, they don't understand the material, the technological spec behind it.
But should the question is, does that matter?
Exactly. And this is the point that I'm saying.
It is, because if I want to, transfer one Bitcoin to you, and I put a gas Ethereum, one Ethereum to you, and I put a low gas limit it will never get to you in appropriate time. So
that is the case because the current state of technology is basically not working really. It shouldn't be like that. It is.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Okay,
I'll give you an example. Okay, so I live in the south of in Rehovot, which is a bit south, and I have two options to drive to the north. I can either take Route 6, which is an express and it costs money, or I can go through Road 2. And that's exactly as far as I would communicate this exact experience. Nobody, and we have over nearly 500,000 users on crypto on our website. Nobody really understands, or I'm sorry, I apologize. Nobody really cares about whether we're decentralized, whether we're blockchain based, whether we run on Ethereum, and whether we need gas, or we ERC20. All that is just as important as the database we're running on, or the VU, or whatever framework we're working on. What they should be communicated about is, look, it will take you about 10 minutes until this transfer is going to occur if you pay this amount of Ethereum. But if you pay a higher price of Ethereum, we'll guarantee that it will go within 30 seconds. That's as far as you need to communicate. Nobody really cares about what happens behind the scene. That's why they have us to take care of. And that's all about the communication. And that's what we've seen on our side.
So Gil, in the insurance space and in your service, what was your most important learnings about what users care about? Do they care about, for example, speed? Do they care about messaging? How did you get the insights of what people cared about? Was it by building something, seeing what failed, and learning from there, or did you run some other process to make sure to understand what users really need, what they really want, and how you deliver it to them?
Yeah, so it's a bit of everything you just said. So before we started, it took us a year to launch in New York, and it's not because we didn't want to launch or the product wasn't ready. It was because of regulation, right? Until we got the license in New York, it took us around a year. So we had a lot of time of doing a lot of iterations on the product, a lot of user testing, a lot of testing of our messaging through different landing pages, keyword research. So we found out a lot about the user by these methods, and it was...
And without a product, so you were doing research without a product.
We started the research even without a product, but then we had a product that we couldn't sell because of regulation, obviously, but we could do user testing. So
you could show it.
Yeah, we could show it, and I was working in New York, getting into Starbucks places, and just asking users to just buy insurance through an app, and it was kind of mind blowing for them. But it got us a lot of really interesting insights. So this was one method of learning what users want. But when you start
getting to Starbucks.
Yeah, getting into Starbucks.
All right, let's go to our cafe, or the equivalent Benedict here.
Yeah, the equivalent here. But then when you go live, obviously you get a lot of feedback from users, and that you actually develop into the product. And in the insurance space, obviously speed and ease of use and price, obviously it's something that's really important for users. But I think what caught them in Lemonade is how we branded ourselves, and the way that we always talked about insurance, of turning insurance from necessary evil, because everyone needs insurance eventually, and not everyone really wants to, but we have to a lot of times. And a lot of people look at it as a necessary evil, but all of our business model, which is built quite substantially different from the old insurance companies, I think this is what resonated with at least the target market that we're targeting, which are kind of urban millennials. The pink, like the pink color, and then the give back and everything like that. So. So
Right.
it was both the brand and different value propositions.
Very interesting. So you became a standard in the industry, and so I would like to ask to everyone, just had some difficulties finding like a great benchmark of services that are done right today. But in your experience, working in that industry, and to you, Gil, even from the outside of the industry, have you come across anything that has caught your attention in terms of best practices? Something you say, oh wow, this service is going somewhere, is well designed, and it could serve as a reference to the industry. Have you ever seen that? Beyond the one that you're working on, of course. So everyone loves his own kids. Have you seen other kids that you like? And the answer can be no. It's fine.
If you ask me about the crypto, about the crypto industry, I'd say everything looks too complicated. And excuse me, guys, if I never tried your products but stuff. But just as an outsider to this industry, and a lot of people come to us and why aren't you in this industry, in blockchain and things like that? But it's at least for us, it's still not interesting. But as what I'm seeing from the side as an outsider to this industry is just. It's too complicated. Like, people only look at it as a way to make money, and not as the revolution that it really is. And I think that it doesn't meet the mainstream market in a way. If you were crossing the chasm and stuff. So it's getting the innovators and the early adopters maybe, but we've got the chasm, and the chasm will only cross the chasm if it will be less complicated, and there will be probably, guys, your products, from what I see, from what I hear here, try to bridge that gap, but it should be like in a mass consumption of users until it will actually become the revolution. But it's just too complicated. Other than the price of Bitcoin, I don't know if people actually know how it works. So.
Yeah. Especially today, it's a great day to talk about the price of Bitcoin, which is terrible. We didn't pick that day on purpose, by the way, obviously. Idan and Nir and Tomer, any service that you've came across and that has caught your attention in any way, in the way it's executed in the blockchain space?
Well, no.
Okay, it's fine.
Well, everybody know what is insurance, and everybody know what is a social network. But if you ask people what is like the monetary system in your country, they will tell you, what the fuck? Yeah. So if you're taking this into consideration, nobody really know what is Bitcoin. Most of the people heard about it on the media, on social media, etc., but nobody learned it. No, I think the majority doesn't took the time to learn what it is, the ideology behind it, and I think that we got like huge FUD above us, because every time that the Bitcoin is falling down in 20% or 30%, the media is shouting the Bitcoin is crashing and the Ethereum is crashing, etc. But I'm thinking about this in a user point of view, and I heard about Bitcoin. So I go to Google and I just Google it, and if I take randomly 99 out of 100 search results, I won't understand what is Bitcoin if I go to those 99 sites. I will need to go and look for like special blogs that talk about it. It's really hard to get into this area. So there is a lot of players in this field. There is a lot of companies. There is a lot of products like us, exchange or changers, or even centralized and decentralized exchange. There is like hardware wallets and etc. It's really confusing world for, like, again, to the majority. So when we do have like a market research and try to find a product that we want to look like them, or to give the same solution as them. And I still think that we are only at the beginning of this area, of this era of Bitcoin. So
it's dial-up era. We are AOL era.
Yeah, you can look at Binance that rule the majority of the market cap, for example. But if you go, they don't have an iPhone app. You need to like jailbreak your iPhone to get their app into your iPhone. The Android app is I don't like it. The website is like you need a full screen because if you go with a small screen, it's breaking altogether. I think that right now there is developers all over the world that are trying to solve the problem that we are talking about here right now. So
maybe that's the problem, by the way.
Or find the problem. Idan and Nir, any companies, products that you've seen that have caught your attention?
If I'm talking about the mass adoption, then the answer is no. But as professionals, I would say two companies definitely worth following. So Connie Yang, she's the director of design for Coinbase. They've been doing obviously an amazing job of trying to make crypto and blockchain accessible to the masses. And Jose Caballero, he's the head of design for Consensus. If you follow them, you see that a lot of their work is educating the professionals. So maybe not products that are ready for mass adoption, but Coinbase and Consensus through their portfolio companies definitely doing really innovative. They're the first to tackle these problems. So definitely worth following.
Great. Idan, anything that you've seen?
Yeah, actually, I'm usually the guy that actually is more less optimistic, but I am actually looking at, when I look at companies, and these are not necessarily exchanges, but companies that are built on blockchain. If you take, for example, Steemit, great experience, beautiful. It's very similar to what we've seen in social networks, but it's all running on blockchain behind the scenes, and you have a lot of innovative features in it, and the experience is great, in my opinion. Stocks, for example, is an Israeli company that uses blockchain for prediction.
Stocks with an X.
Right. Mm-hmm. Beautiful design, very clear. I think that the most important thing is really not to surface the technology. As I said earlier, I don't really care about how the inners of my car work, as long as I go and I sit behind the car and I have a nice cushion and I have my dashboard, and whatever goes beyond that, I don't really care. The same thing goes for blockchain. And I think that the products were built because the people that actually interacted with that really wanted to see what's going on behind the scenes. But as soon as more and more products, and that I think is the biggest problem for all of the industry that we have right now. We don't have enough practical products to use. We're talking about exchange is all about the people that actually invested in crypto because they anticipated the price of crypto to grow. But that was not the intent of Bitcoin. The intent of Bitcoin was to create an entirely different monetary system, not for people to buy it cheap and sell high. That was not the intent. And the same thing is happening with a lot of the views of the crypto, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for real apps that need crypto or blockchain-based technology in order to solve problems that they're facing. And that's what's interesting about building applications like that. And unfortunately, we don't have enough dApps today that are actually built on this technology that are usable. As soon as we start using them, like for example, even the interaction with Kolu. Kolu is a beautiful application. I don't know if anybody uses here in Tel Aviv. Yep. It's all blockchain based, and so I'm not the person that is going to say that everything is shitty and the products look bad, and I didn't find a single application. I think there are beautiful applications out there. We just need to use them more and encourage more, and through that, things will change in the crypto world, not necessarily through the SEC or anything like that, but that's just my opinion.
Great. Unless, Gil, you have one more example.
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention Colo because I think they are doing an amazing work of accessing, of kind of bringing it to the mass market, but they're doing beautiful work.
You didn't need gas, or you didn't need anything?
Yeah. All right, very good. So
Colo, it's centralized.
It's centralized, is it?
It is. It's a private blockchain.
It's a private company.
So you don't need a blockchain to run it.
Yeah.
All right, but
So
they
it's just going
they haven't
just
done
over
an
the head.
ICO or something. I thought they did an ICO and they had their own chain or something.
They are in the process, like any decentralized applications. They start off with the centralized, and they're moving toward decentralization as part of the process. But it is built right now. It's built on fiat, and that's what's beautiful about. I don't work for Colo. I don't have any any.
It's good that you mentioned that. I wanted to make sure that there are no bad incentives.
Right. But I think it's an excellent example of where a company takes actually the concept of trying to build a user experience that is needed in such a way that I can actually transfer financials from an individual to a vendor without going through the fiat process, and that's what they're doing. So that's a process, and there shouldn't be any reason why the design that they have today and the usability that they have today, once they go totally decentralized. But I have a lot of views about what really is centralized and decentralized, and also Ethereum can be called centralized.
Yeah, so that's another debate for probably Chain-Aviv number 4. We'll have time for questions, so stick around. Raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll pass on a microphone. There.
Hey, so my question is about Colo because you started to talk about it. And so basically what I feel, as a user, I used Colo. So they gave you money. Okay, so that's the main reason people use it. If someone will come and tell you, you can use this app and you'll get money, you'll use it even if it doesn't have the best UX, right? Because it's better for you, it's cheaper, and you save 10% of your whatever you use every month. And my question is, you talked about having crypto usable. And when you say crypto, I think decentralization and Bitcoin. And what do you think keep really people from not using Bitcoin or other currencies as a medium of exchange and going to shop with it like they do with Cool?
So why are people keeping their Bitcoin in their wallet and not spending them?
I guess that question was addressed to me, even though I don't work for Colo, as I said. And I think that you're absolutely right, and I agree with you 100%. Colo's onboarding process, in which they give you 10%, and that's the only reason I use Colo, because I got 10% off. Quite frankly, at the end of the day, there isn't any problem for me to pull out a credit card and just pay with that versus paying with that. I think that there's a lot of education that is needed in order to build dApps that make that give you the understanding of what is the virtue of using cryptocurrency versus fiat. And I think that is a problem that exists in the industry in general, because it's very hard to actually show the value of what you would get if you were to use Bitcoin instead of, getting paid in Bitcoin and actually paying your landlord in Bitcoin and actually moving to that, especially in an environment where just between yesterday and today you lost 20% of your holdings on that. But if you were to live in a world of Bitcoin, that wouldn't affect you in any way, in any shape and form. So there are a lot of challenges in that, and that's the holy grail. I have not seen many apps that actually demonstrate why you need actually to use cryptocurrency. That's a problem that exists in the industry, 100%.
Any views, Tomer, Nir?
Let's go a bit to the philosophic side of the Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is not a coin. It's a value holder. It's not like a stock. It's not like a coin. So it's not something that you should or supposed to go to the shop and buy with Bitcoins. It's more likely fit to gold value, or as gold was 200 or 300 years ago. That's so right about now. The rate is not steady, and the Bitcoin is not really a coin. This is my answer.
Okay, so we need to change the name of Bitcoin and remove the coin part and keep bit. It's just bit. 0 and 1. Any other question? Raise your hand so we can see you. No more questions? Nope. All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming over and taking the time to explain your views on this difficult topic. It's not easy, especially in the nascent industry. And you can go enjoy your pizzas for those who want to stick around. And thank you very much.